In today's video, we're gonna be comparing the YoloCam S3 webcam to the OBSBOT Tiny 2 4K webcam. One costs $300 and the other costs $200. There's a $100 difference. There are a few differences in features, image quality, sensor sizes. We're gonna discuss all of that and hopefully find out which one is better for your live streaming and content creation needs. So let's get into it. What is going on, guys? My name is Sam. You're watching our production tips and tools helping you master live streaming. To be super quick and fair, if you just price shopping, you're looking for a cheaper camera, obviously the S3 is gonna be cheaper for you and the quality is gonna be good. And if that's what you're looking for, you can actually stop watching the video and move on. However, there are some nuances depending on what you're looking for and what you need and what are your specific needs. First of all, I believe the image quality from the S3 is slightly better than the OBSBOT Tiny 2 4K. However, it's not entirely better. There are a few differences. In fact, I can see, if I can show you on screen, camera 1 is the S3 and camera 2 is the OBSBOT Tiny 2 4K. You can see in terms of sharpness, the image coming from the OBSBOT is super sharper, cleaner, and it's kind of tasty. However, there's something unique also about the image coming from the S3. You can see the background is blurry and you can also see the colors are richer, just the way it renders the colors, especially in the background. If you have some RGB going on there, you can see that it's kind of special. So let's break it down. First thing, we're gonna look at the sensor size, because the sensor size is gonna determine the image quality, how it performs in low light. Do we have noise or no noise when, you know, the lighting is a little dimmed, especially in your studios? So looking at the image coming from the OBSBOT Tiny 2 4K, you can see that the background is really clean. There's no blurry background. Again, that's because of the sensor size. The OBSBOT Tiny 2 4K, it has 1/1.5 inch sensor. The YoloCam S3 has 1/1.3 inch sensor. The S3 has a slightly bigger sensor, therefore it gives it these superpowers. You can see how the background is really well rendered and it's more cinematic because it gives you what we call a depth of field or a blurry background. But you can see like how I look, it's got that DSLR kind of look, so it's not like a webcam look, even though it's a webcam. So that's one thing when it comes to image quality. And again, remember the Tiny 2 costs $100 more to get a slightly better in terms of sharpness image. Now the reason is you have some other features that I'll call special features, and this is what's going to determine if you should get this camera versus the other. We have what's called tracking. So if I can show you, both cameras come with companion softwares. For the YoloCam, it's YoloLive Compose, which is a pretty basic. They're still working on it, so it's not perfect yet. It's not a mature software, but it will get you going to, you'll be able to set your camera orientation, image settings, like things like sharpness, contrast, saturation, dynamic range, things like that, your focus, which the autofocus on this camera, by the way, is really good, and white balance, which is something that I recommend 100%. The exposure, I actually set it to auto, seems to be working well, no problem. You don't need to mess up with it that much. And then the OBSBOT come with the OBSBOT Center software, which is a super mature software. So I will give it to the OBSBOT because they have a super mature software. Obviously still working on it, but I would say it has a lot of features. They even have something called beauty feature where you can actually go ahead and tweak your image and make it look even better. Now on the top of that, the OBSBOT Tiny 2, it's not just a simple webcam, it's also a tracking webcam. It can actually track you. So in fact, if I move, you can see that the camera is actually tracking me, is keeping me in the center, and that's a feature that if you need it, you know, and I would say mostly that's why you're paying $100 more. So again, if you don't need it, you can turn it off. You can so many presets when it comes to tracking. Obviously you can choose. I'm not gonna go through that. It also has what we call gesture control, so things like I can do like this and it's gonna be able to zoom, and I can do this and it's gonna be able to zoom out, right? So all these features are things that if you need it, you know you need it. If you are into things like sports or fitness, coaching, things where you're gonna be moving, maybe you're creating content on a whiteboard and things like that, and you need something that can track you, yes, this camera is 100% worth it. It's a no-brainer. You wouldn't go with the S3. However, before I make some sort of conclusions here, if we go to something called autofocus, camera right now is set up to focus on my face. So if I go to global, if I put something in front of it, you can see that it's really catching the focus. So this is the Tiny 2, and look at the images. It's clean, it's natural. This camera is just, it looks really good. All right. So if I go to face, then it's going to be locked on my face mostly. So if I was to put this thing on the side, it's not going to leave my face mostly. It's going to try to stay on my face. So I would say autofocus works really well. I'll give it to OBSBOT Tiny 2. However, if I go to the S3 as well, you're going to see the autofocus is actually still good. So this is me putting something in front of my face. Again, the autofocus is set to AFC. So if I set to face, you can see that it's gonna stay on my face most of the time, right? Unless I hide my face, then it's gonna focus on whatever I put in front of it. However, if I put AFC, you can see that it's gonna try to focus on something that I put in front of it, and the focus is really fast. What's interesting between these two cameras when it comes to autofocus, I would say the S3, because it has slightly bigger sensor, you can see my background is a little blurry. I've got the depth of field. So when I put something in front of it for focusing, it also looks better. You can see the colors in the background, but also the fact that the background becomes more blurrier. It gives this DSLR mirrorless kind of vibes. For the Tiny 2, yes, it will give you like the blurry background, but it's not gonna be as blurry as the S3. But the autofocus will still be there. And of course, if I'm not doing any autofocusing or anything, you can see that the background is clean, clear, and it's not really blurry. So you go back to S3, you can see the background is kind of blurry already, not that much like a DSLR, but you can see that the background is blurry, and you can see that the image is just more cinematic and it's not showing too much details in behind me. So if you ask me which camera would be better for your live streaming or content creation needs, I will say both cameras, they really do give you good image quality. Now, if you need that cinematic look and you are on a budget and you don't need any sort of tracking or gesture control, then I'll say the S3 is gonna be the perfect camera for you. However, if you need some sort of tracking and budget is not a problem, obviously the Tiny 2 will make more sense, but I don't want to make conclusions for you guys. You can see both images on screen and you can go ahead and actually decide for yourself. Now, if you are on a tighter budget and you want to see me comparing the S3 to an even cheaper webcam, that's gonna be the OBSBOT Meet 2. I've got another video that I made, guys, comparing both cameras. That one is gonna cost around 130. If you want to see how it compares to the YoloCam S3, I'm gonna link the video right here, so make sure you check it out, guys, and I'll see you there. Take care.